Welcome to the Media Bolt Podcast, where we talk all things content creation. So whether you're filming with your phone or making big budget cinema films on a cinema camera, we are here to give you practical knowledge to help you the next time that you hit record. I'm your host, Justin, and today I've got a very special guest with us. This guy is just a savant at what he does. He's a young filmmaker here from Milwaukee. And really inspiring, has been working on a lot of indie films along with commercial work, and just knows how to bring community together. And his name is Carlo Rosillo.
Hello.
Thank you for coming, my man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to just talk to you guys about all the nerdy stuff I don't get to talk about in general. So
I'll just start real quick. I met you a couple months ago, and our conversation was kind of out of nowhere because you kind of showed up to something. I was doing a location scout. Mm-hmm. And we just end up talking, and I'm like, dude, this guy just like inspires me. He gets it. He's really about that life when it comes to filmmaking, and it was really cool. So I'm so grateful to have you here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
And you're guest number one.
Guest number one, which I can't believe I have the honor. You know,
hey man, it's we're just happy to have you, and I think you'll be able to have a lot of knowledge that you can give to our watchers and listeners about this industry. But I wanted to start off like filmmaking. Like, how did you get into it? Mm-hmm. What inspired you and made you kind of go down this path that you are creating right now?
Yeah. So, I was born in the Philippines. So I moved here to northern Wisconsin when I was like 8. And when you move to a different country, I mean, you just don't have like the same cultural like appreciation or just like know-how. So the only things I had to connect with people with is like movies, like the ones that actually made it over to the Philippines. So it was like Star Wars or Spider-Man. And when I was trying to make friends or anything, it's like I didn't know music, I didn't know like we dress differently and all that stuff. But the thing is that like I'd see Luke Skywalker in someone's notebook and I'm like, oh, that's Luke Skywalker. Yeah. You and I know what that is. Or I'd see a Spider-Man action figure. And that's kind of how I made friends when I was growing up. And then kind of just like, I was always interested in like video or like film and stuff because, the internet was starting to become a popular thing and I'd be on YouTube all the time. And I was playing games like RuneScape and Club Penguin. And I would always watch the YouTube videos. So I'd be like, how do I make that? And then I'd like download like a unregistered hypercam and like use that to make my own videos. And I would do that throughout my like middle school years to high school years. Be like, how do I make money off of this? Like, oh, people actually just make videos in general. So I just started doing that. And in high school, there was like a media program, media productions, LUHS media productions, and they got me a camera. And then kind of from there, I was like, maybe this can be my career. It's always been like a fun hobby, like playing video games with my friends. And I always loved movies and stuff and wanted to like bring that feeling of when I was a kid, like how I could transcend language in a way. And I guess it's just like, I just kept doing it and now we're here. So
now we're here, man. Now we're here. I like watch kind of some of the things you've done. I've been following you for a long time before we actually met in person.
Which is wild. I just really do think I'm in my own little world, just making little stuff. So it's cool to be like, well, because I've always admired your stuff. Like, oh, those guys are doing such cool stuff. Like I've seen like the hockey thing. Yeah. And I'm like, that is super cool. I wish I could be doing that. But so I just want to like, you're going to give me admiration. I got to give it back.
I think a big part of this is that community and just like, keeping your eyes and seeing what people are doing, people that inspire you. And like, me watching you, I see you DP a lot. You've, kind of wear a lot of hats sometimes. Yeah. But I think you're like great at directing.
Thank you.
And I was lucky enough to watch you in action less than a week or two ago for your short film. And we'll talk more about that later. Mm-hmm. But directing, this episode's about directing. Mm-hmm. Why are you a director and what made you like kind of, I guess, lend yourself to that role more so?
I think everyone like always wants to be a director. And when I was growing up, I always didn't want to be like everyone else, I guess. Like, that's why I went off and, you said I wear a lot of different hats. And when I was growing up in northern Wisconsin, there weren't a lot of opportunities to do film stuff. So I did everything. I picked up a camera. I had a Canon 60D, 70D, 80D. I had an A7 I. And I learned on those cameras to try to figure out like cinematography, framing, all that stuff, because I thought, okay, if everyone wants to be a director, I'll shoot for them. Then I started shooting a lot, and I figured that out. I'm like, okay, now I need to light. Now I need to do audio. Now, like, editing has been something I've been doing since I was a kid, as I said. And I was like, okay, I'm getting like pretty decent at all these other things. I feel like I'd be a pretty good director at this point. And I've always wanted to be, but I never wanted to just say that I am. But then I just started directing. And then I'm like, okay, I think I gotta do it, because I already know so much about all the other aspects of filmmaking, and I have so many ideas for films that I want to do. I should just do it. And then I've just kind of fit in that role, but I never want to like just be a director, because I feel like I just love all aspects of film so much. But I think it's just because I fit into that role of like being a leader and a creative, and because I know also so much about the technical stuff, that I've just become a director. And I do love directing from that perspective as well.
I see like your personality on set really lends itself there. Like the charisma, people listen when you talk. There's like the little thing you were like, we had too many water bottles half drinking the day before.
Yeah.
Put your initials on. It was like a serious thing, but you were kind of messing around. But like people paid attention, did it. And then it was like, all right, let's get to it. But I just watched that. I feel like you command the room or the set very well within that. So I want to kind of take us on a journey of, what the director has to do for a film, for an indie film. So like, what is your process after, you either have a script written for you or you write your script, to start breaking that script down and start getting in the pre-production phase for a movie?
So usually the scripts that I pick or like I'm written with collaboration with, I don't usually just grab scripts, because for me, I'm a resource filmmaker. So if there's something that I feel like I can't do with the resources I have, or usually I just don't have money, I try not to do it. So if there's a script that I really like, or I've written with someone else, we usually start from the beginning of like writing it, of like, okay, what locations do we have? How many actors do we need? And is that going to be a scheduling nightmare? Or what props do we have? Do we have like a cool car? Do we have all this stuff? So we kind of start it from there. And then we kind of write our story around it. Like Spider-Gwen was kind of in that same vein, or Pushback, or any of the other things I've done. Like, okay, we have these elements. Can we make a film around it? And can we tell our story effectively around it? So that's kind of our first process, is we do that. We figure out what we have.
So resource writer.
Yes. And then we build around it. And then at that point, we really start just trying to figure out like when we can shoot. We start casting. And casting is, depending on what type of film we're doing, it's either we do auditions or we reach out to a lot of the actors we already have available. Maybe a mix of both. And with casting processes, like in our level, for the indie level, we just send out casting calls to public Facebook groups. Like that's usually where we get a lot of people, or backstage, and both in Milwaukee area / Wisconsin area and in Chicago. And then we'll watch auditions, usually like between me and the producer and maybe the person who wrote the script. Sometimes I'm usually writing it, but usually I do have collaborators in that regard. And then we'll cast them. Then we start scheduling out crew, and I have kind of just a variety of people that I like working with. And I just ask like, hey, would you want to do it? And if they say no, then I'm totally fine with that. People have their own obligations, but maybe I'll shoot it, or maybe this other person might want to film it. And then we go into scheduling with our locations. Usually we have a lot of control of it, or if we don't, then we have to make a very rigid, like we only have this time. Like, I mean, you kind of saw it the other day, was we have a very limited time schedule with like talent and location. And then, we schedule out the days. So, I mean, I'm making it sound simpler than it is, but I mean, that is usually like our process.
That's the process, to get it going. Yeah. So then with obviously these indie films, you don't have multi-million-dollar budgets, right?
No.
So, but there is an element of having some sort of money behind the film so that you can, whether you gotta, feed actors, feed crew. So you got to do some sort of crowdfunding. How do you go about that? And what's your process on like, once you get that money, how you allocate it and where it kind of goes after that?
Depending on the film, usually, it really depends on what we're doing. If it's like a smaller project where we can kind of get away with like not spending any money, we probably just allocate our own funding or like our own money into just feeding crew. We always feed our crew no matter what. Even if like I'm in the red, I will take out some sort of thing just so that I could feed them. Because I feel like if people are going to spend their time for you for free, it's like you at least got to treat them well.
Yeah.
You know, with their mind and with their stomachs. You know, so if that's the case, like with some of our smaller films, we usually just feed them. If it's a bigger film where we want to start renting lenses or doing something like crazy with the camera and stuff, then we'll probably pool together money from our crew if they want to. It's always optional if they want to put together for something cool. Like I have to be honest, like I do not have a lot of my own money. I'm pretty young, so a lot of this is like skating by with with our own funds. But with Spider-Gwen or kind of our bigger productions, like we'll go to kind of other people that we know that have like funded our projects in the past, or like we've made a video for them, and we'll ask for them, hey, can you throw in a couple hundred or some sort of number for our project, and then they'll probably provide some of that funding, and then we'll also go and do some sort of crowdfunding like Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and we'll create kind of like why you should donate to us. Like we'll make a video of like what we did, why we're doing it, why you should donate. We'll make incentives, and just like a variety of different like marketing tools to try to get the word out there for that.
Yeah, I've noticed you guys do a great job marketing, like especially Spider-Gwen. There's like a lot of things going on always, so that you're kind of intact with what's happening.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, here's a trailer, we'll see in 6 months, try something else. I think that's really cool because you're building up like a excitement for something.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that process and just kind of your marketing and how you go about that once you, obviously this is a little later on, film shot, but like how do you kind of approach that?
Well, as a person who, I guess I actually have like a unique perspective to it because I run a Discord server. It's this sounds like I'm gloating a little bit.
Flex. Go ahead.
A little flexing, but it's true. I run a Discord server called Movies and Filmmaking. It's actually like one of the largest communities on Discord. We have like over 50,000 members, and I just have researched or seen a lot of movie marketing, and I've actually worked with like Universal Pictures and Netflix and stuff to market their own films on our server and our social media streams. So I've just been paying attention to like what they're doing, what's popular with them, like what's hitting. Like right now, like Barbie's doing a really great job at doing marketing. It's like they're doing all these like TikTok trends or like Instagram filters.
Didn't they like paint a whole house?
Yeah, like in Miami or something.
Yeah, it's like a huge pink Barbie house that you can Airbnb. It's like
exactly. They probably did that for like a week, but now it made news and stuff. So not like that we're gonna do that or have the money to do it, but seeing those trends and seeing where those are going and trying to replicate that on our own has been like really valuable. Like TikTok and Reels have just been the most invaluable thing for people to get noticed without having like a previous audience. So we've been kind of doing that. And then for me, I've always had like a graphic design background. Like I haven't made graphics, but I've just seen a lot of graphics and how to make them look clean and stuff. So for like my own other stuff, like when I used to do YouTube and stuff. So,
right. And I think what's maybe different with an indie film is you have to do a lot of marketing before you even shoot sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because you have an idea that you're trying to get people on board with. Yeah. And I think that's something that you kind of done with Spider-Gwen is have that upfront marketing. You already have a look and a feel for what is going to come afterwards.
Absolutely.
Right. So we're still kind of in that pre-production phase. Are there some tools that you like to use, whether it's for shot listing, mood boards, or just helping to, get your ideas out for your crew and your cast?
I think, for me, me and Lacey, who wrote Spider-Gwen with me, we use Writer Duet. I've been using that for years now, ever since I was a teen. It's a script writing software made more for like narrative films and like television shows. It's not really for like, other types of scripts and stuff. So we like to use that, and we like it because it's kind of like Google Docs where like you can share writing scripts with other people, which I think other script writing softwares have now done, but they were the first ones to do it. So I always go to Writer Duet for script writing. And then for, shot lists or, mood boards, we use Pinterest a lot. And then also Shot Deck. Shot Deck's a pretty nice software where you can kind of type in like maybe color palettes or a specific shot from a movie, or even angles. Like they have like parameters for a bunch of different things like lenses, lighting, all that stuff. So it's always a thing that we use a lot. Like I use that a lot with.
That's one of my favorite. Man.
Yes, absolutely. And then getting organization together. We use Studio Binder a lot for like our bigger productions because when we have like 30 plus crew, it's just like doing a call sheet or anything like that. That's just really frustrating. But Studio Binder kind of does it all in its own app where you can do shot lists, put the script in there, get call sheets. You have all your crew contacts and all that stuff. And for stories, everything, we have like all of the people we've ever worked with just on Studio Binder.
Yeah.
So we don't ever have to like keep going back to Google Docs and referring.
You just add a couple people as they come in. That's
absolutely.
very smart. So you got your own like email list for crew and cast.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And that's been super valuable. But other than that, we don't really use anything too crazy other than those things. Well, we also use Notion a lot to, like, for me to organize a lot of the thoughts and production stuff for me. Trying to get other people to use it has been a little difficult, but for me it's great too.
They got to get on board, man.
They do. Notion's my champion for organization. But yeah.
Nice. So now you've gotten all the hard stuff out of the way. The pre-production's done. We're finally narrowing ourselves in on, a production day. How do you mentally prepare for the beast that is production? Like I think a lot of people just are like, it's a fun thing, but it can be very taxing. So how do you get yourself in the mindset leading up to a big shoot?
Oh boy, that's such a big question, especially because I just did it with Spider-Gwen with our like big action scene 3 days. For me, I kind of just replay the shots in my head as much as possible. Usually like I'll be in my living room and I'll block out the entire scene like multiple times. I'll just like pretend to be all the characters and kind of just like figure it out in my head. And I think once I like know the flow of the scene, like everything just comes afterwards. Like it's easy to add shots because I know like, oh, that's where it's going to fit in the edit, or oh, I know why we're doing this shot or this angle. Like when I feel comfortable with how the scene's going to flow and how it's going to be filmed, then I feel like I'm ready to do it. So it's just really thinking about it and putting the whole perspective into it. I obviously like refer to the script a lot, multiple days beforehand, but honestly like the day before I just kind of like clear my head and get ready, because then it's just like going in and you really have to like control so many different things, and people are going to throw so many questions at you have to really understand like what those questions mean. So yeah, that's the thing. Directing, you get a lot of questions. A lot of people, you may have people you're just meeting or you're just starting to work with. What is your thought process behind that and having answers or having, things continue? Because you have a lot going on other than just answering people's questions all the time as well. How do you kind of make that work for yourself? I think, I always try to take time to answer as many questions as possible because, especially for our sets, like if they're not getting paid, like I feel like it'd be rude to not, provide those answers or anything. So I take my time to try to, talk to them and make sure that they're there. A lot of the people we get are students or people who are trying to learn. So I always ask, like, is there something you want to learn? Is there someone you want to shadow? So I try to, get a lot of those answers out as much as possible. But if I don't have time, I usually refer myself to, it's like, hey, please talk to the AD. And our first ADs and our second ADs on Spider-Gwen were amazing. Zach Higgins and Peter. So usually I'll try to answer as much as possible. And, I just learned to not get too overwhelmed by it because, the first day for them is our like 100th, 200th day for us. So, someone might be asking, where is so-and-so or what is this or something along those lines. And it's easy to just be like, why are you asking me? I'm the director. Yeah. Like, but like, I just realized like, when I went to school, I used to do those things and people would, respond to me accordingly. And I'm like, I just was asking. Like, but so I try not to dwell on it or try to be kind at least.
Yeah. I noticed that, and I haven't been on a lot of sets that were the size of the fight scenes with Spider-Gwen, but it was so inviting. And there was that learning aspect. Everyone was like, you can ask me questions, whether it was your DP Spencer. He's like, yeah, ask me whatever. Or even you, I tried to be as quiet and just a fly on the wall and soak in and learn as much as I could. But I definitely asked questions and I learned so many things, whether it was tying knots and special knots that, hang in different pieces of diffusion or whatever it was. Like, it was really cool. And I think that the community around what you do, there was like a very open feeling.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've thrown myself in any scenario where I don't know people. And like, I showed up to the set and I knew you and I had heard of Spencer. I've had conversations, but never met him. And then there was like 30 people there before I saw you guys. And I'm like, and everyone came up to me, said hello, made sure to introduce themselves. And I just felt so comfortable being in a space, because typically that's like not like a place that I put myself,
Yeah, I don't know, like, I think it's just when we pair like me and Spencer and kind of like our biggest players, like they come to my set and they just see how I am and they see how like Spencer is and their demeanors and like how inviting and how passionate they are. And it's like, people have told me, like, I'm just speaking for other people because I can't, saying it myself is kind of weird, but they just say it's infectious.
Yeah.
And I'm glad about that, because I've always wanted like these sets to be something that I've provided for other people that I wish I had as a kid or someone in college or as a teenager growing up, because I never had opportunities to go on set and learn and all that stuff. So when, I try to be as inviting and as open as possible, and, we're all here to have fun. Like, we're making a superhero fighting bad guys, and crazy stunts are happening. Like, we don't need to have it be serious all the time. Let's have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I try to instill that with the people I pick that I work with. And I think that kind of environment, spreads out to everybody. And that's kind of like, I'm very happy that you also got that feeling, because that's we try to make set fun,
Sure. Well, you guys did a 4-day, 12-hour days for one scene, right?
Yeah.
For one fight scene.
Well, it was 3 days. 3 days for this one scene.
3 days. How did you feel after that? And take me a little bit through, like, okay, we got it in the can. I can go home. Like, what did that feel like to actually be done with that?
I think with directing, and I was talking to our first AD, Zach Higgins, as well. It's he's as a director as I am. When your first AD worked with you and manning the ship as well as he did, we both just talked about how it's adrenaline. Like, you're in adrenaline fight or flight mode for 12 hours a day, 3 days of that. And I think it's just like relief and then shock. Like, I can't believe we just did that. And then obviously, like, post-set depression is always like a thing. Like, you spend so much time with these same faces for so long, and then now you just don't get to see them.
Yeah.
And then it's like excitement about like getting to the edit and seeing like how it all fits together. Like, Spencer was sending us dailies every day, and we just got super excited because it's, we're all tired. Like, I mean, you saw how hard everyone worked from all levels. It's it's not, we're not just sitting around. We're moving around. We've got so many actors moving and doing stunts that, we couldn't just sit, and even like our grips who had to go up and down the stairs.
God, yeah.
Like, shout out to all of them. I think it's like just so much like relief and tension when like it's like, okay, it's a wrap.
Right. It's finally done. I can go. Now we go back to the editing booth, right?
Yes.
So now you're in the editing phase, and you might not quite be there for Spider-Gwen, but in any sense for a movie, you get into the editing booth. What do you dislike the most about post-production?
Oh man, there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
As someone who's been editing the longest out of everything I've ever done, I think editing is my least favorite process, but it's also the one where I hide the most problems. So it's always my favorite in that regard of, guys, don't worry, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think for me, the editing process is just like that's such a hard question, because they're like, I love it, but I hate it. I think audio syncing is my least favorite.
Yeah, audio sync. Oh man.
Because if something doesn't work right and I have to start manually syncing like 13 takes of like 17 shots per scene. That's when I get really just bogged down. It's like the tedious work that doesn't equal to me like cutting a story together, like, you know, labeling clips or picking selects. It's all the tedious work, and it's only because I've been doing it so long. For other people, I totally understand that that's why they love it. But yeah, I think editing like is where the magic happens. Right. It always is. Like obviously on set, like we did things that were super magical, and I'm like, whoa, we're in a movie set. But when you see all the pieces come together, and I think that's like when we released our trailer, like a lot of our crew were starting to see like what the story was panning out to be. Yeah. I think that's even more where the magic happens when they're like, oh, that piece connects to this, and this meaning had that meaning, and it's like, oh my goodness. So yeah.
So then what do you actually enjoy doing in the edit? Is there like a phase within editing you're like, I can't wait to get to this, or something like that?
I mean, I just love cutting like the dialogue together, and like I love watching performances and trying to figure out little nuances and in different like actors, like you know, faces and eye lines and stuff. And you know, that's usually where I enjoy it the most, where I start, you know, crafting something I didn't even know was possible because of like how an actor's subtlety or like where their eyes are going or something like that. Like for Pushback, it was really exciting because we had a mixture of like real actors, but like also real one-wheelers that were in the mix. So, you know, we had some like really interesting performances from people who've never been on camera before, and like just trying to craft that, like that feeling with them was really cool because, you know, it was kind of authentic with how they wanted to portray it, and kind of like picking what reaction shots I wanted or anything like that. It's like, it's all that small stuff that people don't understand, but like when you watch it on screen, you feel like it's super natural and it tells you more about the story or that character than like them saying it.
Right. So, right. So let's say you have a trailer, you're ready to go. Give me some tips to market that film from that point where it's in the can, you're working on the edit to finish it up, but you have some material to start pushing out. How do you go about that part of it? We talked a little bit about your marketing on Spider-Gwen, but let's say you have like everything.
Well, for us in the past, we've like usually created supplemental content to try to, you know, get people excited for that release. Like for Pushback, we created a music video for the end credits song, like an original song. And we released that early because that has nothing to do with the film, but you know, it's also like, you know, speaking about the message of the film or the hype of it. So we've done that. We've released stills of the project to just kind of generate hype. Like, oh, this is what it looks like, and this is what it's about. We've done, you know, interviews like podcasts or, you know, article interviews as well. And trying to push out as many like behind the scenes stuff because people really like that, or creating videos about like, you know, other behind the scenes content that we want to push out there. So just, you know, talking about your movie without revealing it is kind of like our strategy.
Yeah. And then, so how do you, tell me a little bit about this space, just getting into different film fests and trying to get those sent out and you know, get accepted. Like, what is that process? Are you just kind of hitting as many as you can? I know some are pay to play to get it, just to get looked at. Yeah. You're strategically choosing certain ones. Like, how do you kind of go about that?
I think it depends on the film that you want to kind of market, because there's a lot of festivals that are specifically for different genres or different, you know, styles or avenues. You know, if you're a certain type of creator or something like along those lines. So we kind of just try to figure out what's best for our film. Are there bigger festivals that we want to hit that, you know, are local to us, like the Milwaukee Film Festival or, you know, Chicago? Not that we've entered those yet. But you know, it's really like figuring out a strategy of where would your film be best screened, and would you want to go? That's usually a big one for us. Is like we want to go and see these projects on the big screen in front of an audience, and that's where it's the most rewarding. And people going up to us, and like it's not about like telling like them saying to us that, you know, oh, that was really good. I was like, I want to hear like what they felt like when someone came up to us, like when we screened Pushback and said that, oh my gosh, I cried. It reminded me of like my dad and I. Like that's where it's like the most rewarding. So yeah, just trying to figure out like the best avenues to show your film, and then if there's like bigger festivals you want to hit.
Right. Well, we've alluded to it a lot of times so far in this podcast.
It's hard to not talk about it.
Yes, Spider-Gwen.
Yes.
So this is the film you're working on currently.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me everything that you can about, why you decided to do it?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, like what the experience has been like so far, and then kind of what else you have left and where you're kind of at in the process right now.
Yeah. So, well, Spider-Gwen is a comic book character, a variant of Spider-Man in the comics. And my friend at the time, now my girlfriend, Lacey, who plays Gwen in the film, who also like created the story and wrote it, was telling me that after No Way Home came out, we were on the Spider-Man bug. Like, we're just like, oh man, Spider-Man. And then she was like, oh man, I really want to turn Spider-Gwen into a live action film. And I've heard a lot of these types of ideas before thrown at me. It's like, okay, show me a script. And then that's usually where it stops. Yeah. But she did. She showed me a script of, I think it was like a 26-page script of this whole story. And it's kind of expanding to like more of like Gwen's first issue where she starts fighting her bigger villains. But when I read the first half of it, I was more interested in that because it more revolved around a smaller story around why she becomes a hero. Her Uncle Ben moment. If you've seen Across the Spider-Verse, you understand what that means. But I was like, okay, with our budget, our resources and stuff, I think we could tell this story super effectively and it would shock audiences because this is way more heartfelt or like way more excruciating than Uncle Ben's story of like his loss. So I was like, can we do this story instead of like doing the whole thing? She's like, yeah, let's do it. And then that's kind of when the wheel started turning. Like we started doing pre-pro, we started getting locations. I started asking Spencer like, hey, we need a prom scene. We need this, yada, yada. It's like, do you have any leads or anything?
And Spencer's your DP. Right?
Yeah. Spencer Ortega. Shout out to him. And I was like, oh, hey, like we're doing this crazy Spider-Gwen thing. Like, I know you're probably too busy and like, we can't pay you, but would you be able to gaff for like these 2 days just for this prom scene? And he's like, would you need a DP? And I'm like, you want to DP this? Of course. Like, oh my goodness. So we got him on and then it's just kind of how it started happening. We just started trying to pull resources and pull people together and everyone just started getting super excited about it. Cause like who wouldn't want to work on
freaking superhero movie?
Yeah,
like come on.
Exactly. So I've just been like super blessed with like everyone who's wanted to work on this, and it seems like everyone you just wanted to put their all into it. Every single person that we brought on just like wasn't skating by that like this was just like some student film or something along those lines. Like they put their all. Like Spencer put his all. He spent his own money to get new equipment to do it. Like Lacey like spent extra money so that she could like create a custom suit. Like our suit is custom.
It's
like
sick.
Yes, it's super cool. I know Kirsten, our costume designer, put in a lot of work to try to make sure that like we replicated the comic books in the best way that we can with the lighting and color scheme. I know Emily Dulski, our production designer, like transformed the Church of Zhao's gym into an actual prom space that I'm just like, it was just an empty like 4-wall wooden gym and now it's like a movie set. Like that's super impressive. Like I didn't expect any of that. So, and I think like as we were just going on, like I'm just glad that this was the film we wanted to make, because at the end of it, the core of the story I'm trying to tell with why Gwen becomes a hero is still the most important part. Now it's just elevated by all of these amazing artists and creatives that want to, make sure that story is also prevalent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So like, how does it feel to like see all that stuff coming to fruition after just it being literally an idea? And it was, Lacey's idea comes to you and you guys tag team and try to get something drummed up. Like, what does it feel like now where you're at? Obviously it's not done. You haven't shown people the final product, but like where you're at in today's, like, what is that like?
I think it's super like rewarding. Like I think back in like 2020 when I was starting to just get really back into filmmaking in the Milwaukee area after coming back from Chicago, I just had this idea that I wanted to like the Milwaukee film scene seemed so scattered for a bit. And I just wanted to, it's like, we have so many cool people who are making stuff. Like, why don't we all come together and create something crazy and like just start working together and like building Milwaukee into something cooler? And I think Spider-Gwen was that catalyst. And the fact that that is what that sentence alone is what just like, it makes me super happy. Like it makes me glad that, you know, Milwaukee has come together so much to just create this like little dream that, you know, Lacey and I had. And, you know, I'm just, you know, super blessed that these people like thought of it in that way. And the fact that so many people from the Wisconsin film community has been like providing resources or time or anything along those lines to do it is just like, it makes me hopeful that Milwaukee is going to be like a media art like center, because if they would jump onto this, like, you know, what's the next thing that, you know, we're going to create that's crazy? Like, who's the next person that's going to gather all of like the Milwaukee creative adventures and like make something crazier after that, you know? So I think that's like what I'm taking away from the most is like, I could have never imagined that this is the thing that like brings everyone together. And that's been the coolest thing.
And I'll just say, you know, I was on the outside looking in and honestly feeling like, man, I'm missing something big right now. And when I think you put out a cast and crew call for the first shoot, the prom scenes, and we had some kind of corporate shoot or whatever. So I was like, I can't go. And I remember I tagged one of my buddies, Loki. Yeah. I was like, you should hit them up, you know? And he went.
Loki's awesome.
And he was telling me about his experience after, and I was like, man, I can't believe I missed that, right? And but there's just the energy behind what you guys are doing that I think a lot of people see, and a lot of people are like, you know, inspired, number one.
That's awesome.
And number two, man, I think it's changing the landscape because Milwaukee does need collaboration. And we talked a little bit about this before, but there is a lot of, you know, old guard that doesn't, you know, you're not really accepted. Yeah. I know, being a filmmaker of color, both of us, like sometimes you feel weird in spaces and you're not really supposed to be at. And it's just the inclusivity of what you're doing, and just that feeling is just awesome. And
yeah, thank you.
And I just appreciate you for, you know, doing what you're doing and keep it going, man.
Yeah. I mean, it was scary. Like, I never wanted to be that person, but after a while you just keep looking like, why is no one doing this? Or like, people attempt to, but they never follow through. And, you know, at least I wanted to try to do something. And, you know, I'm just glad that like, my favorite thing about moving forward is that like a lot of the people who worked on Spider-Gwen, who maybe were students or people who were just starting out, like, are now getting hired by other people who worked on that crew to go do something else. And, or they're working on something else because they put us on their resume. Like, that's super cool. Like, I just wish, you know, like, Milwaukee should just keep doing that. Like, you know, we all can get our bag.
Sharon, man. Yeah, exactly. So can you tell me a little bit about your company? And what you guys do, you know, from a standpoint of that.
Yeah. So Stories Everything is something I created in, time last year. And it was kind of that idea of like, I knew all these people. I worked on so many different sets. I knew so many different types of people. I wanted to bring them all together, not as like, oh, like, I'm running this company. It's more of like, we just want to come together and do something cool. And if that's like, you know, a film or a client video or something along those lines, like, this is what we want to do is, you know, I want to put as much creative energy and time and effort into the people who work on it behind the scenes as much as the people who are in front of it. And because I've, you know, been anywhere from a grip to a sound person to an AC, it's like, I've been on sets where it's like, I try to, you know, be part of that conversation. And then they just tell me that like, you're just an AC. Yeah. It's like, you've been on our set to understand that everyone there, like, if they have a better idea than me, it's going to go in the film or the project. Right. Like, we've done that so many times, like on the music videos we've worked on or the other films we've worked on where, oh, okay, you have that idea? That's cool. Let's do it. Like, you know, I want to just garner that kind of community between like all of the crew members, because they're all valuable. They're all creatives. They all don't want to just be a grip. Right. So that's kind of where Stories Everything was, you know, birthed from. And then as well as like, I wanted to market our projects to not just be, we can shoot cool camera and it's 4K and, you know, all that stuff, like hitting all the boxes of like cool video. It's like, no, like why we're valuable is that storytelling is valuable. It's always been valuable, like obviously, but it seems like when I was working for other people, they just saw me as a camera and like, you know, hit record. It's like, that's not why the video is good. Like it's our storytelling insight. It's our, like our framing. It's all this stuff. So, you know, that's why Story is Everything is named what it is. And it's what we are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Story is Everything. So can you just tell us where we can find number one, Spider Gwen, and stay in touch with that going forward?
So, you can find Spider Gwen's Instagram. It's at Spider Gwen Last Dance. Then Facebook is around the same thing, Spider Gwen Last Dance. You can follow us on TikTok on Stories Everything. And then if you want to check out all of our other projects and more information on Spider Gwen again is storieseverything.io. So
storieseverything.io. Well, it's been amazing having you here today. Yeah. And if you're listening to this, no matter where you're listening or watching, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're at, hit the like button, rate us, give us some good comments, some good feedback. The more you do that, it helps us to rank our show higher, and we can bring more awesome guests like Carlo next time. Thank you so much, and peace out.